Joining us now is Senator Adam Morfeld. He's a state senator from Nebraska. Sir, it's nice to have you here. Thanks for making time to join us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So I am fixated on your state because I feel like Governor Ricketts is mounting a response to this epidemic that is troubling to me. And it seems, even though a lot of states have not great responses, what seems particularly troubling is the lack of data that's being released to the public. The state's not releasing data on individual nursing homes. It's not releasing data on individual meat plants now. And as you point out, they're not even testing any prisoners in the state. I want to ask if you feel like national concern is warranted at this point from those of us in the rest of the country looking in on what's going on in your state.
I absolutely think that national concern is warranted, and it's warranted because just releasing aggregate data is dangerous to the public safety because we can't tell as a public whether we should be rewarding or keeping accountable public or private entities that are doing a good or bad job. And quite frankly, right now, we should be building trust, not veiling certain things in secrecy. And that's pretty important because we need to make sure that we are allocating scarce resources to where we need them the most. And if we're not providing specific data, the public doesn't know where the actual problems are, which means that organizations in the state like Nebraska Appleseed, the Heartland Workers Center, other folks can't provide critical training and services for employees and employers. And public officials like me don't fully understand what the scope of the problem is and how well we're doing. All of this plays into the narrative that the governor wants, which is that we're ready to open back up, that things are on the upswing when we haven't even hit our peak yet.
We are seeing in a number of states varying levels of transparency when it comes to how big the outbreaks are in individual plants. There aren't federally required guidelines on these things. There's guidelines, but there's no actual rules that the plants have to follow. Some county health departments or state health departments have been able to exact promises from individual plants that they will test all of their workers and that they will make those results public. Nebraska seems to be the least transparent of all states in terms of the number of plants that aren't saying anything publicly and where the information that we've got about problem outbreaks comes from anonymous tipsters, comes from journalists ferreting out the information, and it seems like it may ultimately come from individual county health departments defying this line from the governor now that they can't release this information and they have to defer to these businesses. It sort of feels like things are getting worse in Nebraska and not better over time.
It is getting worse, and you wouldn't know it from the governor's office, but you would know it from the local public health officials that are telling the truth, that are coming out and saying, hey, listen, we have major problems in our state right now, like the Republican mayor of Grand Island. I think it's also important to note that if we don't know exactly where the problems are, we can't allocate resources in order to help people. And that only plays into the governor's narrative, again, that we're supposed to be ready and open for business when, in fact, we are in the middle of our outbreak. And that's very concerning because the governor seems more concerned about protecting the reputation of businesses, which is one of his stated reasons why this information needs to be private, rather than the saving the lives of Nebraskans and protecting the public health and public safety of our state.
Adam Morfeld, state senator from the great state of Nebraska. I am concerned so much about Nebraska because I like Nebraska a lot and because I really am worried that you have one of the worst managed large epidemics in the country. I know that you've been doing your damnedest to squawk about it and to try to improve it. Keep us apprised and keep me honest as we keep covering this. We're going to stay on the story.
Thank you, Rachel.